Hello everyone, welcome back after the short break. So let me introduce our next speakers, Ashwini Ingle and Priti Mishra. Ashwini currently works as a quality analyst in the ThoughtWorks. During her stint in the organization, she has worked on projects in various domains and with a diverse tools and technologies. And Preeti, she has been with the ThoughtWorks since last 2 years. She has worked on an automating web application with various frameworks using Java, Selenium, Ruby, Cucumber. She has also done performance testing using JMeter and Gatling. So apart from her finding bugs in her spare time, she likes to read, watch movies, and shop. So please.
Hello, a very good morning to all of you. So, thanks for coming in. This is Preeti and
Hi, this is Ashwini.
our talk for today is Analyze the Analyst. We would like to pass this idea across through some case studies. So, any characters appearing is purely fictitious and there's no resemblance to anyone in real life. So, let's say this is me. It's a definite let's say. I'm an agile QA. I have been in projects to design and implement automation frameworks. I write very well factored code and have written hundreds of browser tests. Every time I enter a project, I start off with writing the automation framework and then I look at the stories. I see the acceptance criteria and I automate all the tests mentioned there. So once I've written these, before deploying code to production, we wait for the build to go green and all the UI tests to pass. But it doesn't happen often and it failed as a quality assurance effort. Let's see how. Every time a test failed, I have to investigate why. Did the devs introduce a defect? Did the devs deliberately change behavior? Did I write a flaky test? Or was there an outage somewhere? Tracing this root cause could take half a day or even more. And worse, there are generally very few QAs in projects with dozens of devs. The devs would write stories or rather introduce bugs faster than I could really find out or diagnose or file reports. And they would move on to the QA and then they would wait for the test to pass. And this posed a very big problem all the time and we fell behind. At first, code couldn't go into production without the tests passing. And the entire team had nothing to do but wait for the QA to write more tests and maintain and fix those tests. Our frequency of deployment decreased drastically. And we kept writing more and more automation tests. So we became the bottleneck here. But the test suite almost never passed in its entirety, so nobody would take it seriously. And if automation tests are not taken seriously, you cannot be confident about the code that is moving to production. I didn't get enough time for any exploratory testing. I was not even sure if the analysis had covered edge cases. I was never sure of the lower level test coverage. I did not pair with the devs to find the unit integration and contract level tests that they've written. My product owner kept asking for new features without considering the broken process here. I didn't even get time for any user testing, and user acceptance became a big challenge for my application. Our clients wanted us to deliver new features every day, and we weren't being able to. Our biggest challenge was to be able to minimize time to market, so that we can validate the good ideas and pivot away from the bad ones. This was the extreme of continuous delivery. Let's take the example of Flickr. They deploy to production around 12 times a day. If we want to do the same, we don't have time to wait for the QAs to write and update tests. We don't even have time to reanalyze and rework poorly analyzed stories. So this is when I realized I want change. We need to step back and rethink what we expect out of our QAs. We need to break the bottleneck while maintaining the high levels of quality. This requires that we take a very good look at what the unique skills a QA brings to the team, and we make the best use of them. So over to Ashwini, let's see how we achieve that.
So yeah, that's me, whichever of those you feel resembles me. So to brief about me, I have been QAing since last 5 years and I have worked with the teams as small as 3 and as big as 25. I have always promoted an environment wherein quality is the responsibility of entire team rather than QAing being the last stage of your software development life cycle. My goal is to work with the entire team throughout the software development life cycle to bake the quality in. So how do I do it? Let's see. So here I'm pairing with the BAs to define the scope of the story during the story reviews. BAs are the ones who primarily talk with the product owners to get the requirements out and break them into the stories which could be developed. Often these stories contain the happy parts. So I support by bringing in a more realistic view that is happy as well as sad parts. If we take an example of the login functionality for a banking domain, let's say initial analysis of the story may contain ACs around successful login. I add up or I work with the BAs to add the ACs around the unsuccessful login with invalid credentials. I may also raise the questions around locking or deactivating user account for X number of failure login attempts and things like that. So with this whole QA-BA pairing, we come up with a list of ACs which define the boundaries around the system, saying what system should do and what system shouldn't. Now these stories can be readily picked up by the devs for the developments, but before that, I would also like to think about the test scenarios that I would be performing on that particular functionality, or I would be testing on that particular story. I list down those scenarios in the story card itself. When the devs pick that story for the development, I right away share my scenarios with them so that they also know what all I would be testing on that particular functionality, what all edge cases are there, so that they can take care of those edge cases while implementing the functionality itself. By doing this, we eliminate the retesting cycle by preventing defects rather than finding it later at the stage when the story is actually dev done and we become the blockers there. I also pair with the developers to understand their test coverage, what all tests they are writing, whether it be the unit tests or service level tests, contract level tests, and things like that, so that I also know what all paths I have to cover in my automated user journeys. This also eliminates the duplicate efforts of writing the tests. So we can, together as a team, contribute to one single test pyramid and keeping the functional tests lower in number. You wouldn't believe, but for this project, often it happened that I couldn't spot a single defect when the story was under test because we were following this good practices. I prefer writing the automated test with the developers because they are the best people to write the code, and your automation test code should be treated as equivalent to the actual project code. That is also a good learning experience for me. By doing this, devs also get to know what all automated tests are there, where are they, how it is structured, so that anytime when the build fails or build is red, they also feel responsible in fixing the build rather than writing automation and maintaining automation becoming just the QA's responsibility. Here I'm pairing with the designers as well. As a QA, I question what the quality is. If our end users are not able to use our bug-free software because they are not able to understand this functionality itself, then that is an example of a poor quality. Poor user experience is a poor quality. Hence, I'm actively involved in the user testing as well. By understanding how our users interact with our application, it gives me an insight of what is valuable for testing, what works for them and what doesn't. It also helps me in thinking from users' perspective and giving the feedbacks to our designers when the next time they develop they design new functionality for our users. Here I'm pairing with the product owners as well. I let them know what all outstanding defects we have or known issues we have in our application, so that they can prioritize between the shiny new functionality that they would like us to build in the software versus the existing defects that we have which needs a fix. I feel frequent interactions with the business owners also help me clarifying my doubts or queries around the new functionality that we built, and continuously adds up to my domain knowledge. These kind of discussions also helps us in defect triaging, wherein we prioritize the defects based on the impact of the defect along with the likelihood that it will occur. Hence, I feel pairing with the product owners or working with the product owners is equally important. So this is my way of scaling QA point of view across the team. When we bake the quality in, each and every team member feels comfortable or feels more confident in how the app is performing. QAs are no more the bottlenecks, and everyone is responsible for the quality for that matter. So if you look at Facebook, Facebook has no dedicated QA team. Every engineer at Facebook writes and maintains the automation suite. So it seems Facebook is there to break the QA silo, but they are still perpetuating the misunderstanding of QAing being just writing the automation code. Let's see what they are missing on.
So these are very two important forms of testing. If QAs write only functional tests, then we are missing out on exploratory analytical thinking. And these two styles are very important, but they are very different and they complement each other. Automation's goal is regression, to keep retesting the existing functionality and to keep checking whether that has broken or not. Whereas exploratory is to find out all the scenarios, all the edge cases and the boundary test cases.
So what all we have been talking about till now is, I think, well described over here in this slide. I'll just read out it. So we cannot rely on mass inspection to improve quality, though there are times when 100% inspection is necessary. As Harold Dodds said many years ago, we cannot inspect quality into a product. The quality is there or it isn't by the time we inspect it. Well said by Mr. Damon.
Let's take the role further to test strategy. What should be tested? Sitting with the devs and product owners to decide this. Let's say my app at max needs only 100 users accessing it. So I would not write a scalability test to test 1,000 users there. And that is the risk I am taking with the existing infrastructure, with the existing development, and also it helps me to frequently release. If my product owner says next year he wants to scale it up to 200, that is when I would start thinking of enhancing the test strategy as well.
So let's redefine this word analyst. What does the word analyst mean to us? It means collaborating with the entire team to gather the requirements or to come up with a test strategy which will help us build the highest quality software. And it includes, but not limited to, the entire team, all the roles in your team, QAs, BAs, UX, designers, product owners for that matter.
Analysts have a very special mindset or skill, you can say. They have a deconstructive mindset, they are critical thinkers. Most developers can automate tests and they can stay in the same constructive, happy mindset while writing code. But what we don't want to miss is the probing one that an analyst brings. We need QAs who can write edge cases, who can sit with the devs to learn the code, and who can also advocate for best practices and awareness around. So our request to you is advocate for QAs to be involved in the software life cycle earlier on. Challenge the idea that a QA is just a regression test and support change. Thank you.
So we have kept it short and simple so that we could also hear back your opinion on this. You could also share, you could also think of implementing these learnings onto your project and share with us what all you think would be the blockers. So if anyone of you would like to share any experiences
And how you
or
overcame
any
the challenges.
any blockers.
So no, not as a blocker. Basically, I completely agree what basically you tried messaging here. It's really important that it's a role. Yes, QA do have a very hardwired brain, So they do carry a core role, but along with that, we should be right from the beginning of any software development life cycle, and we should be challenging, as I said in the last slide, we should be challenging every bit of the entire life cycle basically. And it's not that we should just accumulate things and whenever and when and then suddenly we pitch in the entire once somewhere in the life cycle and then go and give the idea. That probably doesn't work, hasn't worked basically, and that's why we started distributing among the whole hierarchy and start pairing with the BAs, challenging the thoughts, asking the clients basically what are the ideas, what are the requirements, and start testing the requirements itself there. And so it has worked for me at least every time in most of my project, and it has taken a lot of load from me and has given distributed to the right place. Apart from that, I've got enough time to think on a more innovative line, do something else as well, which make me more occupied and more interested in doing the QAing still.
I have a question. So basically, so in my project, the BAs are a separate team, the QAs are a separate team, and the devs are a separate team. So I agree with everything, but how is there any way to solve the silos problem? Have you
So you guys had that exploratory testing, I catch that word. So how exploratory testing is different than the test automation, and how do you do this test strategy or test planning for the exploratory testing?
So exploratory testing is all about the manual edge cases which you try to find. Let's say you have a story in front of you. So with that story, you would say first test the happy parts and then invalid scenarios, maybe the lengths, data.
So that will be a scripted testing because you are writing down all the scenarios.
Yeah. So our point is we do not write all the scenarios like with all the test data. Let's say you can have possible 50 test data, right? So if you keep iterating them and running those tests, that will be a lot, right? So have smart test cases which would actually happen in real life, those automated, and the edge cases one you would leave for your kind of testing.
So what I think about exploratory testing is that like if I'm running some test, okay. Okay, so I want to fill some form and then I need to click on some button. Okay, if I double click on that button, what will happen? This is something which is called as exploratory testing. So do you guys plan something like this testing? Because this type of testing you cannot automate, because this time you have to think about the runtime. What if I do something and
Exactly,
this
yeah.
happens to the application? This all I was thinking. So if you write down all the test planning or a test strategy on the before delivering any feature or before the application deployment is done on your QA side, so these all become a scripted testing,
So that-
because you are
yeah.
writing all your scripts like yes, for this invalid, so this will be the for this boundary condition, that will be scripted. So if I on the runtime check what if I do something which breaks my application.
Yes, so with all the spare time that QAs have with actually the devs doing automation and the BAs thinking, and for you having sorted out most of the bugs early on, you will have a lot of time when the story is in QA, and that is when you can do these things, like how you're saying in runtime. Because you won't be spending your time actually writing automation at that stage, or actually thinking about all the analysis that was missed on that stage, right? Because those have been done early on. So at this point, when the story is actually in your plate, you would be doing all these exploratory testing.
You could also perform exploratory testings for the check-ins that devs are doing, without even before the story is there in your plate, right? Because you have the continuous delivery set up over there, you have the pipeline, you could take any build and start exploring the build. It need not be documented, it not be listed somewhere, right? You're just exploring things in order to see whether my app works as expected in certain weird scenarios as well, right? So you could try out any path, but we are saying that you need to find out that time. You need to have that time to do the exploratory testing, which is equally important as automation. Don't spend all your time over there.
No,
Just writing
what I was
automation and
asking you
fixing
guys,
it.
so do we have any strategy or planning before running this?
No, it did not have any planning. That's what we are saying. Just
So I
go through it and perform the test in your mind. Whatever it is in your mind, just try it out on your app. That is how you would find the defects which are not obvious. So if you have the test documented, you will run that test again and again, and you would follow the same path. Versus if you try out exploratory testing, you would forget about the tests. You would try out different things, different paths,
Yeah.
right?
So I
Yeah.
guess this question is more of, so
How
is
to
there
do
an
it.
overall strategy, not specific? So she's saying exploratory testing does not need a strategy,
Yeah.
you should go with the flow.
It
Whereas
comes
for
with critical
No,
overall
but
test strategy.
it's not. It's still required as test planning
I-
because
Yeah,
before.
so you're talking about
yeah.
the overall test
Yeah.
strategy.
So
I
one
think
thing- yeah.
you want to talk about the overall test strategy that you had, or versus the
you
exploratory
can
testing.
fit it into the test strategy basically. So one thing which Ashwini just mentioned is very critical. Exploratory testing is about buying the time. So how do you buy the time? That you can plan in the test strategy. So it's very important that you put the test strategy in a way that the roles and responsibility. That's where you define. Okay, we will have automation. We're gonna have a test pyramid. We'll distribute the test to the different layers. Who will own that area? And that way you are distributing. You're delegating the work, right? The work which will always automate it, right? That you have distributed. Now you have bought the time. So
Yeah.
yes, exploit testing is about buying the time, and through test strategy you can buy it basically. You'll have to plan it. You'll have to upfront thinking of it. Okay, there are different components. There are different strategy. You can test this. This is how you can test it, and you're buying the time from there. And other thing is exploit testing. You cannot do. So it's about, so always when you're close to it to the application, or when you're building the application, you're always in certain context. If in context you cannot do the exploit testing. Hence you say, okay, this is the iteration is running. We have certain stories going on development. What I'm going to do is I've delegated all the work. I've built a good strategy, and then I'll sit back. Once all the related story of one feature has been developed, I'll sit back. By the time you guys take up the build and all those things, I'll sit back and I'll do the exploit test. So these three things is very important. The strategy is important. The time is important, and then just buying the time and then sit back.
And it also comes with the analyst mindset, right? QAs think about how many browsers we can test on, how many clicks can generally give a database error or things like that. So it comes with more and more exploratory testing that you do. You will find out where your app actually fails, and you will keep continuing doing those things further on.
Yeah,
Okay.
but the strategy should have some specific time dedicated for
Yes,
exploratory
yes,
testing.
yes.
And the exploratory testing, we cannot have a strategy for exploratory.
And does
specifically.
we require to automate that thing as well? If sometime like if you do some exploratory test and then it got failed, do we require to automate that?
So
Yeah, it
if
depends,
you,
yeah.
it depends. If you find that path or that journey is critical for the users as well, and if you cannot afford to have defects in that path, you can go ahead and automate it, right?
Or if you see that part failing all the time in all
Yeah.
the stories. So that is again when you will automate.
So one good example of exploit testing, we often try to test the application from the browser, right? From the view things. That time I want to take out time. I want to just track the whole transition. When I create a transition, I talk to server. I'm going to go to the logs, see what is getting passed, all the wherever, like the servers, how it is saved in the DB. So this is like kind of exploit testing basically. You may face challenge if you try to put the exploit testing in the test strategy very explicitly that we want to block time, and this will be really on top of your head. We cannot give this amount of time. So the other way to tackle it is okay, we are delegating the work, and then automatically you will get the time.
So mostly people do not plan for that type of testing
Yes.
because they have a feature and they write all tests, then they have test code,
Right.
they run, oh my feature is done,
Right.
so I don't have to do anything. So they have to identify some time or test planning for things where you can find the issues or bugs.
And that you have to actually strictly sell it to your team itself first.
Yeah, and you could also talk with your product owners as well, making them understand the importance of exploratory testing and the time, dedicating a time for that.
Actually, one other thing that you could do with exploratory testing, I mean, what we do here, we have something called as bug bash in every team. So not like a very initial phase, but like, you know, say when it's almost complete that time. So what we do in a bug bash is, it's not just restricted to the testers. We call the devs of the team or probably people from the other teams as well. So if there are people from the other teams, we just give a brief of, say if it's a web app or something, we tell them what it is and we just let them explore whatever they want. So they get a whole new perspective to that testing.
Yeah, so this is something which Microsoft does. They call it as dark fooders. They have some actual users who are going to access their application. Those are not the actual QA, but those are someone who you are actually accessing the application as well. So they might see these type of issues mostly.
Yeah, that helps because it brings a very new mindset. Because if we keep looking at the application over and over again, we might miss certain areas. They just become blind spots for us. But with new users coming in who are accessing it for the first time, can actually tell you the challenges they
So
face.
in that case as well, if you have a mindset like I do not want to repeat my test. If I do log in, okay, so I will identify how much time different I can try to log in with this application. If I double click on login button, if I give some wrong input or something, so I want to repeat my test with differently. That might do some exploration.
So the other point that we wanted to bring out specifically was QA being the center of the team and then collaborating with each and every role to give their inputs, right? Collaborate with BAs to tell them what all ACs can be added to the story itself so that devs know these are the cases. You can add your test cases, dump the test cases into the card itself so that they know what all test scenarios you would be testing and they would write them, they would take care of them so that you would not find the defects later and you would end up preventing the defects. Collaborate with designers, product owners, everyone. So do you agree to that part as well, and do you feel that you would also start doing it in your projects as well?
That's something we do also follow in our projects.
Nice.
Say when a feature is ready, and developers just call everyone to do a story preview. So we'll just get hold on what is happening as part of this feature. Okay, this is being covered, and if I want to say something, yeah, this is not being covered here. At the beginning stage itself, I get to know these are the things are not being developed. Go ahead and do that. And after the story review is done, that goes to our QA bucket. Before I start doing my testing, I list out all the scenarios I'm gonna test. Then I call out developers and explain them. These are the scenarios I am executing. What do you want to add on to this? Say there are some of the scenarios that I have listed and they are not already been covered as part of development. They'll think in that spot itself and go ahead and do a code changes. That did help us.
So yeah, I would suggest a slight change. Don't wait till the story comes to your bucket. Share the scenarios upfront when they are working on the story itself.
Okay.
So that they would think of those scenarios as well and implement the fixes for them. Rather than you telling them later, this we missed and hence there is a defect and things like that.
Good idea.
And the best way thing to for QA, they have to ask the questions always. If you have acceptance criteria, go and ask the questions.
Nice.
If you don't ask the question, you might need to see the bug. Then
Nice.
so if you have that type of attitude, try to ask why this is.
Yeah, and
if-
ask it in the beginning itself.
Yeah,
The story
that-
is in analysis.
Yeah, before accepting the acceptance
Correct.
criteria,
Correct.
if you ask the questions to the product owner, he will
Yeah.
might clear your questions, or might be that go out of the screen.
Nice.
Well, I have a scenario. It's like I've been working with a client who is not matured with their processes. They don't have their own processes in place. I mean, I'm talking about the product owner. I'm a BA. I'm working with 5 different product owners as stakeholders, I would say. they don't have a clarity on the requirements as such. I mean, we get a shirt size estimate with the details of what is being expected. But then while I'm working on a user story when I'm listing down all the acceptance criteria, when I go back and verify, hey, this is the first draft. I mean, I'm sending it to you. Can you please review it and give me your comments? He said, looks good, but I'm not sure. I mean, I need to think about it. I need to. He comes back with a lot of things, and then tomorrow he comes back. He says, no, I think these acceptance criteria might, it needs to be revamped, or maybe you remove everything. So in that case, even if what you said is fine, as a QA, you're interacting with the BAs, interacting with the product owners. How would you handle? I mean, in such kind of scenario where a client itself or the product owner itself is immature and they don't have a process in place where or rather, I would say they're not clear about the requirement itself. Probably they are on 140,000 feet level, or not at a 40,000 feet level, maybe at a 10,000 feet level, and they need to deep down to 100 feet level. But it's more of a collaboration sort they expect from us. So in that ways, how so basically what I'm trying to say is, how would you reduce that cycle time of preparing the test cases, or rather preparing the complete the user stories, preparing the test cases? How would you reduce that cycle time? Because
So I would say if your product owner is not very sure of what he wants or what she wants, then even if you follow these things, right, that wouldn't be of any value. So what I feel personally is, whatever you write, whatever ACs you write, you go and check with them. So when you start the actual development as well, have the frequent catch-ups with them and show them, we have developed this much, we have taken care of this much. Do you feel till here the things are right? If he feels that you have implemented 2 or 3 ACs, but it needs this change, or it might trigger to him that the 4th AC that we have mentioned needs a change now because we have done this, and I feel that there is a change that is needed, then you will get to know there itself, rather than waiting till the story is complete and then you showcase, right? So have the frequent catch-ups to know what is there in their minds.
So in that case, you need to ask the questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you had more questions, you will more likely to know what you are going to build. So that's where agile comes.
And ask very high level questions like what is the business solution that he's trying to achieve, and based on that, not like I want a button here or a text box here. So those are the things maybe which you will propose, or create a prototype and show it to them.
we do have a sprint in place, and everything, we do plan everything. But the point is here, sometimes the product owner itself, he's not sure about, maybe it's a prioritization of what is must have and what is nice to have, and things like that. So, but still, this is a very good idea. I mean, if QA, because what happens is, in our case, every time the QA team waits for the BA team to finish up the user stories, and then they come back and they finish up their test cases, and finally at the end of when the dev team finish up the development and it goes to testing, oh, there is some requirement change that has come up, which will again affect, there is a effect, like,
So
we need to update the user stories, update the test cases.
So this is a very nice real-time tricky scenario basically, and I understand what this exact problem statement you're talking about basically. Yes, it is a solution, one of the solutions it is. Probably we need to throw some terms to them basically. It's about the scope, as you said, right? Your client is not so very clear about the requirement, and the problem is that every time you tell them the scope of the story, he or she says, okay, this is something probably I need to be changed.
And the client is even located at different time zones,
Yeah, that's again,
and they have very limited time. I mean, I cannot block his calendar for the whole day or something.
that's again very time. So I guess probably a couple of things, because we need to throw the responsibility in their bucket. You tell us what is the scope of the story. At the same time, okay, so when they define the scope of the story, you said, I'll be helping you. I'll be helping you putting in the acceptance criteria. Let's forget about what QA is going to bring in the edge case study. But in this critical scenario, let's keep the QA thing. It's a QA brain, I would say, not QA basically. Let's keep the QA thought process outside for time being. Let's help the business owner, right, stakeholders. Say, okay, fine, you define the scope of the story. Fine, once they have defined, Okay, then you're just helping them to put it as acceptance criteria. Then you say, okay, fine. If you now measure it, do you want to put it in quickly into the t-shirt size, SM and whatever, and then say, okay, now can you try to fit it into the iteration? Probably it is overflowing. Do you want to really play the story right now, or you want this as a criteria? Probably you need to take out some acceptance criteria out of it, which becomes another story. Now, what are you trying to make them understand it? You're trying to fit them. You're trying to first get the important bit developed basically, and see the MVP, the minimum viable product. You want to first experience the product at a very higher level, a happy path. Then if you want to bring in the changes, you want to see the changes, also you want to amend it probably, then we can play it in a different story. Any change, we should be playing it as another story so that we have a right cost attached to every iteration. Or else it will be, it's no one else's problem, it's a team's problem, which you are also part of it basically. Probably we need to throw such terms, basically we need to throw the responsibility in their bucket. You tell us, we'll be helping you define the scope, and if it goes beyond the scope of a certain story, like any size of the t-shirt, right? And so, okay, but probably we need to break it down the story. So I guess these terms are very important, that you need to break the requirement in so that they can be achieved in one iteration. And we can play the important bits, couple of important bits together in the iteration, not like one story only for the entire. So we have to make sure that we have 3 developers or 3 pair of developers. We have to have work for all of them, and that should be measurable basically.
So if there is any change at the end of the iteration, that's obviously be the cost, extra cost to the customer itself.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
So it's very again important point.
But we are working on a time and material bit, so it's like every time we need to
Yes.
justify,
Yes.
like why we are. If it's like we do have planned start dates and end dates, but it gets pushed off.
Right.
Every week we do a review and then
Yes.
all the dates gets pushed off because of the fact that the requirements, the ACs are not complete. I mean the although we have listed down all the happy parts, but then still there are certain things are being the client itself, as I said, the product owner himself is not sure.
So I guess I've had such experience with one of the clients basically how they handle. We train their brain basically about the cost and the boundaries of the stories. Everyone say, okay, fine, we don't have any problem. Every change he or she used to ask, okay, we don't have any problem, but it will be a new story because it's change of requirement. Or else and at times we used to accept it, fine, it's a bug. We will fix within that cost. So it's like you're coming to a midway and saying, fine, we are also
That's
accommodating.
a trick because fixed cost project where you have a defined timeline,
Yes.
but in a time and material project where you have to justify why it's like 2 weeks you said initially, and then you are saying another 1 week you'll take to sign off with the user stories and the test cases. So why? I mean, that needs to be justified.
Yeah. So hence if we keep talking about those terms, keep bringing those terms, cost, scope, the story, change requests, bugs, their brain get trained, okay, and every time say, okay, it's a cost, it's the size of the bucket, and always the story has to be the smallest, has to be broken in the smallest scope basically, not like multiple things we are trying to do. I guess we keep talking to them with these terms, just train their brain, and then they becomes educated and they start thinking themselves about, okay, probably it's on our part that we be very careful about change requirements.
Then the client itself is they're very new to Agile, so they're like, we are trying to help them out, like, okay, here is something we are showing you after end of every 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
And one more suggestion, do let your QAs pair with you when you talk to them or showcase something to them so that QAs would be able to validate the requirement itself, because they are the domain experts. If your product owner says, I want A, your QA would say, we cannot implement A because B is contradicting it, which is existing thing.
Or maybe something is dependent as well. There is a dependency on some other system.
Thank you so much.
So we have some goodies for Preeti and Ashwini. And the next thing, lightning talk will happen over there in the with, and you can give feedback. You can use this QR code, and if you don't have the app, then you can give the feedback on the laptop is outside.
Wow. I also want to work.
I also want to say.
What will you do?
Okay, thank you.